I went ahead and I decided I would take a leap of faith and interview for the head volleyball job at Berkner High School here in Richardson. And you talk about intimidating. I walked in and there was a 12-person committee staring at me and firing questions. And I remember being in that hot seat, and that was tough, but...
Hi, everyone. This is Libby Pacheco from the THSCA. Welcome to Season 4 of the Coach's Call podcast. This season, we'll keep delivering content to help you tackle all the different aspects of coaching, from the personal side of what it means to lead to the professional challenges we know you face every day. With basketball and soccer seasons upon us, we want to encourage everyone to stay connected and engage with the Texas Way. This program is designed to foster positive sportsmanship across the state, and we're already seeing that positive impact in our fall sports. Positive sportsmanship is something our students, schools, and communities value deeply. So let's continue building on the momentum so we can ensure it remains a core part of Texas athletics. Finally, as leaders in community, education-based athletics, we encourage you to shine a light on all the good things happening in your program. Today, more than ever, it's important to show how athletics positively impact students, schools, and communities. Whether it's the hard work, character, or achievements, every day brings something worth celebrating. So don't let those moments go unnoticed and unshared. When you share your stories, you're helping build support for programs and strengthen our communities across the entire state. Thank you for tuning in, for supporting the podcast, and all you do to support the THSCA. Together, we will continue to help coaches help kids.
Hey coaches, did you know we're now offering shows for all sports? That's right, whether it's basketball, volleyball, softball, baseball, football, soccer, you name it, we've got you covered. If you're looking for a way to showcase your program, promote your players, and highlight the amazing things happening with your team, our coaches shows are the perfect solution. Plus, our business model lets you or your booster club raise money while building excitement and support for your program. Don't miss the opportunity to take your team's story to the next level. Find out how you can get your very own coaches show. Reach out to Chris at 713-269-4620 today. That's 713-269-4620 because every team deserves the spotlight. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Coach's Call. I'm Chris Doelle, and as usual, I have some very special guests, some knowledgeable coaches, but I'm going to hand the mic over to Libby Pacheco because she is the expert. And Libby, if you could introduce your guests and take it away.
Absolutely. Chris, thank you so much. This is going to be really a two-part series about interviewing. Today, we're going to focus specifically on if you're a candidate looking for a job and some techniques, some things to consider as you're going through that process. And I have two experts with me for sure, not only because they've gone through this process themselves, but they've seen both sides of it, and intentionally have somebody from a larger school district, multi-school district, and a smaller school district, because I think those are two different things to consider as you're looking for a job, as candidates are out there searching. So let's hop into it. Coach Slovak, will you introduce yourself and then tell us about your first job? Like, what was that experience like, getting your very first job, right, starting off in this profession?
Well, great. First of all, thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Leslie Slovak. I'm the Executive Director of Athletics for Richardson ISD. This is year 30 for me in education, all in Richardson. My first job, I was 22 years old, and I went ahead and I decided I would take a leap of faith and interview for the head volleyball job at Berkner High School here in Richardson. And you talk about intimidating. I walked in and there was a 12-person committee staring at me and firing questions. And I remember being in that hot seat, and that was tough, but fortunate. They offered me the position. I was there for 6 years as the head volleyball coach, a teacher, And then I was fortunate enough to interview again and get the assistant AD job where I spent 15 years. And then fortunate enough again to sit in that hot seat and interview for the AD job in Richardson. And they offered me that position, and I've been blessed. I've been at the right place at the right time. So consider myself very blessed.
Awesome. And we'll say our goodbyes and talk about the next phase of your career and life here in a little bit at the end. But Coach Gibson, same question. Tell us a little about yourself and your first job.
So I'm Brian Gibson. I'm the athletic director, head football coach at Wink High School out in West Texas. This is my 26th year in public education. I actually interviewed for several athletic director and head football jobs as my career progressed. I was offensive coordinator for many years. I thought I nailed all those interviews. I thought I did a really good job on those interviews and never got offered one of those jobs. One of the big things that I felt like I didn't get was feedback from the committee and the people that I interviewed with on what I did well and didn't do well. Who you know, not so much what you know. I got my first AD head football job because I was really close friends with a superintendent that took a job, and he put me in that situation and that spot, and I've been blessed since. But I've conducted a lot of interviews, and there are a lot of things that go into the interview process from both sides that I'm excited to discuss those today.
Well, good. My first job was an assistant basketball assistant, volleyball coach in Waxahachie, and I was fresh out of college. I got my job through a job fair, and so I had a traditional teaching certificate, internship, teaching, student teaching. So it was definitely not the way I've gotten any other job since, but that was the first one. So here we go. Let's hop into this. Let's talk about even before you get into an interview and you just start looking for a job. I think this is a piece of the interview process, job search process, that people don't talk about or people don't train young coaches about anymore. Coach Slovak, can you tell me, before interviewing for another job, how should a coach approach their current position in that conversation with the current AD or athletic director?
I think that's a great question. And I've had to coach a couple of people up on this. I've had people that have done it, in my opinion, the right way. And then I've had some where I've had to pick up the phone and say, hey, I've had 2 other ADs around the state call me about you, and I didn't know you were applying. And their first response is, oh, I'm sorry. And sometimes they didn't even tell their principal or their coordinator. And I just try to coach them on the fact that I think transparency is key. We've all been in a situation where we've looked for a different opportunity. I think some coaches think they can keep it quiet. And I try to remind them how small the AD world is. And we're going to call people on your references. We're going to call references that you don't list. And so it's going to get out more than likely. 99% of the time, it's going to get out that you're interviewing. So get in front of it and own it and be transparent. And I think that's important. And coaches don't realize that. And I think we have to educate them. So I've had to have that conversation multiple times about just being open and honest.
Coach Gibson, what do you think are the risks of avoiding that conversation? Where do candidates put themselves? What situation do they put themselves in?
Well, I think it's just like what she just said. We're going to call people. So whenever I get an applicant, I'm going to call everybody that's on your reference list, but they're on there for a reason because, you wanted them on there. I'm going to call your previous employers and I'm going to talk to them and find out what's going on. And not every situation is great for you. There's times you have to get out of a current job or a situation, but I'm still going to call them and I want to know how you've handled some of the adversity that you're dealing with. And if you haven't notified the people that you're currently working for, that's a big red flag for me. I don't want you to come to my district and then do the same thing to me. I want to be open and upfront with you as an employee when you work for me, and I expect the same thing back. So I think it's crucial. This is a growth profession, and we ADs and head coaches understand that you want to progress and grow in the profession. And so it's not a bad thing that you might be looking for another job. It's just when you don't communicate those things and talk about your career goals, I think that's when you lend yourself to really getting red flagged whenever you send in applications.
I liked how you said it's a good chance. Those conversations, it's a good chance to talk about those career goals, and that your current AD head coach may not know. I think we take for granted that everybody who has a head coaching job knows what their assistants want, but unless you are able to vocalize that and to tell them, they may not understand or realize that you're looking for something else. And I think those type of conversations just lead to really, really good discussions later on where you may not want to leave after that conversation. Right. So let's talk about those references. How much weight do you put in references? Coach Gibson, we'll start with you. You talked about it's not who you know. I mean, it's not what you know, but who you know. So how much weight do you put in that?
You know, and I think it's all about relationships, right? We talked about that in the THSCA when I was part of the board of directors and things like that. It's all about those relationships. And so when you turn in a resume to me, those 5 or 6 references that you have on there are the ones you want me to talk to, right? Those are your buddies, your friends, the ones you've had great experiences with. But if you don't put your previous employers on there, like if you just left the district and they're not on your reference list, I'm going to call them and find out why. I want to know why they're not on your reference list. So, you know, build relationships. If you want me to call somebody from your previous school that is going to speak highly of you, make sure you put them on your reference list. So I think that thing is crucial. You don't want to hide from things. Not every situation has been great for you. You haven't handled everything the right way all the times, but you also want to be able to have people explain to your new potential employer that there was growth, that we handled this situation and we moved forward. So, you know, I think the reference list is really, really critical. Don't make me go searching for those, right? I don't like to, if I've got to go search for who to contact at your previous school because you didn't put them on there on your reference list, I really don't enjoy doing that. I want to be able to look on there, call who is on the list, and get some input from your previous employers, you know, just your recent ones and your not so recent ones as well.
We take it one step further in THSCA, especially when we're talking to our rocks. We always tell them it's not who you know, but who knows you. Exactly. So a lot of times, often, if somebody who knows you and your work habits and your work ethic, that person being able to speak to you says a lot as well. Somebody who's willing to reach out on your behalf. Mm-hmm. So, Coach Slovak, what happens with candidates maybe who don't have that networking background, or they don't have a previous job, candidates that are fresh out of college or have chosen to make coaching like their second career? What can they do to kind of use references and get in the door?
Well, I think they need to be realistic. They need to realize that maybe I need to start at the middle school. And to me, there's nothing wrong with starting as a middle school coach. That's the foundation of what we do. And I have huge respect for middle school coaches, middle school principals, for the foundation of what we do starting in 7th grade. And so I think they need to be realistic. I talk to coaches quite often who they want to be an offensive or defensive coordinator at a 5A, 6A school, and they've coached maybe 1 year, or they've not coached at all. And they say, well, I want to be at the high school. I think being realistic. I think we live in a microwave society. They want instant gratification, instant success. And I think we're seeing a lot of young kids come out of college that maybe it is a second career or they want to coach, but do they realize that you may need to start at the middle school and then go be great where your feet are? And that's what's going to make a difference. And I have my eye right now on some young coaches in our middle schools. They are rock stars and they are doing all the right things. They're all in for kids. They're building their network right now. But sometimes you may have to start at a level where that's not your ultimate goal, and be patient. And I think that I see that a lot, where I'm seeing a lot of coaches that are not patient. and work hard and grind it out and be all in and do great at whatever it is you're doing. Is it laundry? Is it scout team? Is it, you're the third basketball coach, or you're the C team basketball coach at the junior high, but are you the best C team volleyball coach in your district? Well, you better be. And that to me is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, if I could add to that, like that's one of the things I talk to our coaches about all the time is you're interviewing for a job all the time. There's someone that is always watching and looking at you and evaluating you, whether they're from your district or from another district. I kind of brag on the fact the last 3 coaches that I've hired here in Wink, I actually went and got them from another district because I watched them coach against our teams, and I was impressed by how they coached. And so they were interviewing for a job and didn't even realize it. And so that's something that's very big. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're interviewing for a job in front of someone.
I think there's a lot of competition for those good coaches out there right now. And so athletic directors, coordinators, I know I had a running list. I had 2 running lists. The coaches, if we had an opening we wanted to go after, we wanted to call and contact. And those that if we saw their name came through, even though you're going to blow me away in an interview, I've seen it. Like, I've seen what you're acting like on the sideline, and that's not what we wanted in front of our kids. And so, what a great point that you're always interviewing and keep that in the back of your mind, Coach Gibson. So you're at a small school district. How do you think that setting impacts how a coach should prepare for interviews, whether they're going to be interviewing with a large committee like Coach Slovak had to do at the beginning of her career, or if it's just with 1 or 2 people? How should that impact preparation?
Well, I really don't know that it impacts the preparation any differently. When you come to an interview, whether it's with the large committee or just with me or a couple of people, I think you need to be well prepared and you need to dress the part. You need to come in looking professional. But I think your preparation needs to be the same. One thing that I think potential candidates don't do enough is practice the interview. Every interview always starts off with "tell us about yourself," and it's amazing to hear how many people stumble through that and don't have confidence in talking about themselves. And I think that's something that you need to prepare for. My niece is interviewing for a vet tech position at Texas Tech, and we put her through 2 different mock interviews just to practice. And I think that's pretty important. If you really want to be a good interview and nail that thing down, you've got to practice and you got to rehearse some of the questions that could potentially be asked. But number 1, nail that first part. Tell us about yourself, because most of the time, it's not about what you know that we're interested in. It's who are you? Like, I want to know about you, and you can nail that in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the interview. Just telling us about yourself.
So, for Slovak, so what advice would you give somebody who's maybe facing a large committee or who's anxious about how to stay composed in that setting? And I agree, Coach Gibson, it probably shouldn't even matter. Like, you should go into both of those settings ready to sell yourself. But I do believe that sometimes facing 12 people is a little bit more overwhelming than sitting in an office, because I've done both, sitting in an office with the athletic director and the principal and just being able to chat informally versus a formal, hey, fire Adam questions.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great question. I do want to touch on something Coach Gibson said, because I believe 100% this is true. I've said it over my career. My coaches have heard me say it over and over. You are being interviewed every day. So to me, we have a lot of coaches, in my opinion, that do not prepare enough for the interview. And we need both. I need you to do a great job every day. And then when you come into the interview, you're going to seal it. You're just confirming what I've been watching or what your references say. And so it's not a light switch. You can't just turn it on and go, I'm going to practice to have core values, and I'm going to practice to be all in and have a moral compass. you need to practice, like Coach Gibson saying, you got to practice. If you can't nail that first question, you didn't practice. I mean, you've got to nail that first question. And I need to know, no matter if it's 12 people or 2 people, I want to know what's important to you. Are you going to win the right way? What's your core values? And I want eye contact. I think that's challenging when you've got 12 people, but you need to make eye contact and try to make a connection with everybody in the room. And that's hard. But if you practice, you need to practice. And I don't think people practice in front of a mirror. I don't think they practice with getting multiple friends around a table that will fire questions at them. And how bad do you want that job if you don't prepare for it? If you haven't really, I mean, every candidate should be able to at least think of 3 or 4 questions that they're probably going to ask. And you're not going to figure out all that they're going to ask. But the other thing is, do you do your homework? In a multi-school district, I expect them to know how many middle schools and high schools we have. I expect them to know what district we play in. And so do your homework. But I think Coach Gibson would say the same thing. I mean, even in a small school district, do you know the makeup of our school? You know, what size are we? You know, what classification? It's pretty obvious when someone doesn't do their homework. I have received multiple letters of interest where they will say the wrong school district. They have my name on it, but the wrong school district, because they're applying for every job in the Metroplex or the state. And if I just put that aside, if you didn't take enough time to look over that, I don't think you really want to be in Richardson, Texas.
And I just think that those small little details are going to make the difference, especially if maybe someone called in and said, hey, they're great, but you're looking at 2 different candidates and trying to make a decision. It's a misspelling on a resume. It's a typo here or there that if they're going to do it there, how are they going to approach their job? How are they going to approach it whenever you're paying them $75,000, $80,000 to get in front of your kids and your athletes, and when they're communicating to parents? And so, no, I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. So let's talk about some of those, some more pitfalls. Leslie, we'll just stay with you. What are some of the most common mistakes, other than ones maybe that you just mentioned, that you see candidates do within the interview?
Okay. I see this all the time. I just saw it recently in an interview. I can think of multiple head football coordinator interviews that I've seen it in, and you know it's in them and you want to pull it out. I think sometimes they don't answer the question. So I think they need to listen. If the questions, sometimes I know the questions are in front of them, the committee will give them the questions, but if not, ask the question again. If you didn't think you answered it, it's okay to say, would you please repeat that question, and write down some key words of the question, because sometimes I feel like I know it's in there, but I shouldn't have to pull it out. You know, I really want you to listen. And because to me, as a coach, you're going to have to listen to parents, listen to other coaches, listen to kids. If you can't listen to the question in the interview, that's a concern. The other thing that I see all the time, I see them talk about their current role. So let's take an assistant coach who's interviewing for a head coaching job. They're answering questions and they're talking to me about all the great things they do in their current district. But I need them to talk about, how is that going to transfer over if you're fortunate enough to be named the head coach in our district? And I think sometimes they don't make that transfer. I need to hear, if I'm fortunate enough to be named the head coach at so-and-so high school, here are some things we're doing in my current school. I feel like we could transfer over. I don't hear that all the time. And they get really fixated, which I understand, on what they know and their comfort level. But I need to hear their plan and their vision if we were to hire them in our position.
Gibson, what about you? What are some of those common mistakes you're seeing?
So to piggyback off what she said is, I'll ask a question and they'll answer to what they felt like the answer should have been, or what they thought I was asking. And I remember in a lot of my interviews, I went to the strategy of, whenever I answered a question, I would address them back directly. It's like, did I answer the question that you asked? Like, sometimes I was confused on what they were asking whenever I was interviewing, and if I answered it, I would always follow up and say, did I answer the question that you're asking on that? Because I was a little bit confused. I wasn't afraid to say, like, I really didn't understand the question. I answered it the way that I felt like what I believe. But is that really the question you were asking? So piggybacking off that, I think one of the biggest things that I run into sometimes is negativity and arrogance. Stay away from it in the interview committee. I don't need to hear about how bad it was at your old district or how bad this situation was or things like that. Uh, Everyone has their own leadership styles, and you may not agree with it or it may not work for you. But that doesn't mean I want you to come to my district and talk about how bad your situation was in your previous district, because I know in the end, if that's your outlook and your mentality, you're probably going to say the same things about me when you leave my district. So stay away from the negativity. Don't get involved in it. If you want to talk about some of the things that the adversity that you had encountered in your old job, then that's fine. But talk about how you grew from it. Talk about how it helped you become a better coach and a better person. But don't dwell on the negative part of it. And don't come into the meeting with arrogance, thinking that you are the savior to the district. I would venture to say that most every district that you interview for is going to have a strong culture. They're going to have the way that they do things, and you're not coming in to save it. You're coming in to add to that. Arrogance is a big turnoff for me. Like if you come in and say that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and this, like it just doesn't fit well in our district and the way we do things here. And I'm going to venture to say it's probably that way in a lot of districts.
And Libby, I'll add to that. I completely agree. I'm really turned off by a bunch of I's, the arrogance, and it's just I. I want to hear we did this, and I was fortunate enough. I like it when they say I was fortunate enough to be a part of a team, and I'm looking for a great opportunity. This is an outstanding district, an outstanding opportunity where I can add value. And if they're saying well, where is it that you add value for kids? And where is it that you add value being a team player? Because I need somebody confident, but I need to hear a lot about kids. And you're in charge of the experience that the kids are going to have. And how are you going to do that? But if they come in trying to convince us that they're the best coach ever, that we'd be crazy not to hire them, they're just overconfident, arrogant, and I don't hear much about kids or much about a team concept. I'm really going to struggle to move them forward to maybe a next round or even consider them.
That's both of you guys. What a great answer from both of you guys. Lots of things you guys touched on. I know one of the biggest tips I had was don't be afraid to brag on yourself. And that is a tough part. Sometimes especially when you're applying for a head job, for an assistant AD job, if you're that type of person who is a team player and who just focuses on the team concept, it is sometimes hard to get your own accomplishments lost in all of that. So there's a balance, right? I mean, it's hard to accomplish that. Well, actually, it shouldn't be that hard, but to accomplish bragging on yourself, but then also showing, hey, this is what I can be able to bring to the table as far as team concept and add to the culture. So, one of the things that we talked about was presentation. And this came up again in some of our conversations this week with other coaches. A lot of interview formats can differ from place to place. Some might be very, very formal. Some might be really casual, especially in a time whenever you're trying to schedule interviews at any time that's convenient. Even if you have a informal interview, so maybe a head coach said, hey, I know you're coming out of practice. Come on and let's chat whenever you have time. What are some things that coaches need to keep in mind about presentation and just what they look like whenever they go into an interview? Either one of you guys, both of y'all can answer that.
I'll start off. I think it's important that you dress the part. Even if I I understand that if an athletic director is asking you to come in as soon as you get off the practice floor or the field, to have an interview or a conversation. But coaches adapt well and they adapt quick, and they always have a closet somewhere, something that has some nice clothes. I never would go into a conversation that was going to advance my career and not present myself in a professional manner. You know, I assumed every interview that I went to was a formal interview and I was going to dress the part. Even if they called and said, hey, it's just going to be the athletic director and the principal, you can wear da da da. I would dress down a little bit, but I'm still going to wear some of my nice clothes that they're going to see me in every day if I was in the classroom or coaching on the sidelines. But I wasn't going to come in and not present the best version of myself. And I think that's the key. You want to show up and be the best version of yourself that you can be. And if you look good, you play good, right? That's what we always say. Well, if you look good, you're going to interview good. And so I'm a firm believer of dressing the part. And I understand there's certain situations where you're put in a bind and it's hard, but coaches adapt quick and you always have to have that backup plan. So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, we've had a couple of situations where round two is meeting with maybe me and an assistant stoop and our superintendent, and she will tell me, "Please tell them it's okay. Wear khakis and a nice polo, or something," because she knows the day before they were in a suit and tie. And if it's coming from my superintendent and she says that, I will tell them, and then they're always like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And I said, "I promise." That's what she means, but it's not shorts and a t-shirt. I agree. I would never show up for something that's that important. When you walk in, first impressions matter and you can't get that back.
And I would say that first impression also includes how you address the coaches and the people in the room, how you present yourself and how you introduce yourself. I'm only saying that because I've heard stories, very recent stories of coaches walking in the room and saying, "Hey, bro," or, just acting super informal as though they're best friends with the people that are just because they've had one conversation. And I just think that's a big mistake. And now, because right off the bat, you've already told the people in the interview committee exactly, how you're going to address parents, how they're going to present themselves to principals and administrators. So I think it's important to keep that in mind as well. So, Coach Slovak, you talked about this earlier about making sure you have questions that are ready to go. I always believe that walking into an interview is not a one-way street. Like, you really need to be digging into, especially now in a competitive market where you potentially, if you're a good candidate, could have multiple offers for jobs. So what kind of questions can you ask, or should you be prepared to ask to know if that district is a right fit?
Well, I always like it when a candidate, at the end, we always end with, those are the end of our formal questions. Do you have any questions for the committee? I like it when they ask, what are you looking for in our next girls coordinator position? What are you looking for in our next head football coach area coordinator position? To me, that's important. So now the candidate is asking, and I think it's important too, ask the principal. Don't always ask the AD every question. Ask the principal, ask other people on the committee, make eye contact with everybody. And as y'all know, there's multiple people on the committee that can answer that. But I think it's important for the candidate to ask the committee what you're looking for. And I also think it's okay to ask for a timeline. Could you please share what are you thinking as far as timeline for announcing this position? Because you're right. They're probably they may be interviewing for other jobs, and that may come into play. So those are the two that I think are important and that I enjoy hearing when I'm on the other side, not in the hot seat, but when I'm in the committee. I think those are two good questions to ask.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that too. I think it's important that you ask the district what they feel like their strengths and weaknesses are as a district. You nailed it, Libby. Like, it's a two-way street. And whenever I'm going to an interview, I want to know that it's a good fit for myself and my family as well. And I want to know all right, what are your strengths as a district and how can I help contribute to that and build on those? And then also like, where is the district failing a little bit? What can I do to help you build up the district? And I think those are some questions that you can ask back. But I think in the end, ask the questions that are important to you. Like if it's important to you to be happy as an employee, for your family to be happy and stuff, ask those questions. You know, we talked about core values and what you're built on and made on. If that district doesn't fit those core values and how you're made, then it's probably not the right district for you and you won't be happy. Even though it may be a great job, you're still trying to find the best fit for you as well. And so I think, you know, identify what your core values are, identify what's important to you, and ask those questions to see if they match.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt those questions were also another way to kind of show off and show a little bit about yourself and what's important to you. Whether it's asking a question where you can demonstrate that you had done research about the district. Hey, I know that you have had turnover in these areas. What are you going to do to address that? I think that's, again, another way just to, again, show off and show your preparation and your willingness to enter into that district. Just a couple more questions for you guys as we kind of wrap it up here. These have been an amazing conversation. This has been really, really fun. Y'all are adding a lot of value to all of our listeners. But so as you guys are interviewing candidates, whether it's a large district or a small district, what are some of those just things that a candidate can do that say that this is the right fit for your district? And knowing, again, y'all are coming from two different circumstances, what are the things that can just make them stand out?
Well, I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, is do your research, you know, make sure you know what type of job is it? Is it more of a rebuild? Are they coming off a lot of success? And also, I want to know, I love it when a candidate says, this is coming home for me. You know, I grew up here. We've had multiple candidates want to come back to Richardson ISD because they're a product of Richardson ISD. So talk about that. Talk about the fact that you can see your family. You know, you want to bring your family here. You want to raise your family in this community. Well, why? Because I grew up here. I have family here. And I think it's important to talk about those details, as opposed to I'm applying for every job and I just want the title and the paycheck, and that's the most important. So I want to hear why they think it's a good fit. There's a lot of good coaches that don't get jobs, not because they can't do the job. Maybe it's just not a fit. So I want them to convince me why they think it's a fit. And if they've done their research and there's a connection, they need to share that.
I want to know, can you build relationships? Like I want to know in the interview, I want you to build a relationship with me real quick in our interview, because if you can build that relationship with me in the interview, then I know you're going to be able to build it with kids. And so I'm looking for those type of characteristics when you interview. I just think that's so critical in today's world, what we do. And so I don't care about X's and O's so much when I interview you. We're going to get to that point throughout some point of the process, but immediately I want to know about you and can you build that relationship, because, you know, our kids need those. And I'm going to present the opportunity for you to build that relationship with me in the matter of 5 to 10 minutes of our interview. And I want to know how strong you can build that relationship.
And Libby, I want to add to that too. You know, there's a question that we ask in a lot of our interviews: what is your greatest moment in coaching and what's your lowest? And, you know, what I'm really looking for right there is relationships. Because if they talk about maybe they did win a state championship, or maybe they, you know, they had a successful year and it's all about wins, but there's never a mention of kids, that's a concern. And so I'm always looking for, in every answer, does it go back to kids? Have we built relationships with staff, parents, community, and kids? And if I can't hear that and feel that, also, I'm a very visual person. I need to be able to visualize them standing in front of a booster club, standing in front of a faculty, standing in front of a Rotary club. Can I visualize this person representing us? And that's important to me. And so they better be building that relationship as fast as they can in that interview so that I can visualize that. And I think that's so important.
There's a lot that goes into getting ready, prepared. And it's nerve-wracking and it's stressful, as it should be. And those are big life changes. I would say to any of our listeners, just listen to your gut, listen to the Holy Spirit, listen to where God's taking you, and let that also kind of be your guide, and let those values that shaped you as a coach and shaped you as a person, let that guide you in your decision making and where you end up. Thank you both for serving our coaches. That's really what this is designed to do, to serve a large group of coaches. Coach Slovak, I'm going to tell you, thank you so much. You've just recently announced your retirement, and you've meant so much to the coaching career and the profession across the state, not just in Richardson ISD. And we're going to miss you. We're going to miss seeing you around. We hope you still stick around and we still see you at coaching school. And I just want to tell you and let all of our listeners know that what a great mentor for me personally and for lots of people all over the state.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's bittersweet. I know it's time. I never believed that when I had colleagues say you'll know, and I thought, will you really? And it is time. And I've been blessed 30 years in Richardson, but I'm going to get to be more present as a mom. And I've got a son that'll be in high school next year. And there have been a lot of times where I think I've been a better AD than I have a mom. And it's time to really focus on him. And I'm going to actually try to sit in the stands and watch and just be a parent. And I'm pretty excited about that. But it's been an honor getting to meet people like you, Libby, and then just your paths cross with coaches like Coach Gibson, that if it wasn't for Texas High School Coaches Association, we would never meet. And I just challenge our leaders, I challenge you two to just keep pouring into kids and coaches. It's getting harder, not easier in public ed. We got a lot of fights to fight, and our kids deserve that. So thank you both for all you do.
Chris, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was an absolute graduate level course in interviewing to be a coach. Excellent stuff. I love it. And thank you, Libby, for all the amazing questions. Thank you, Coach Gibson. Thank you, Coach Slovak. So many good bits of information here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you.
Hey, of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You do it for the great messages provided by the THSCA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSCA and the Coach's Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Doelle, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coach's Call. The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSCA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSCA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSCA, visit www.thsca.com.